Part 1, Your Mind is Your Religion. When I talk about the mind, I'm not just talking about my own mind, about my own journey, but I'm actually describing the mind of each of us, and of all sentient beings in the universe. The way we live, the way we think, almost all of it is devoted to material pleasures. We place so much importance on the sensory world and the material world that we devote ourselves to anything that can make us happy, famous, and have status. All of these events originate from our mind. We are so preoccupied with external things that we never look inside our souls, we never bother to ask, why is my mind so attractive? As long as we are alive, our mind cannot be separated from us. As we know, we are always changing, today this way, tomorrow that way. That event is not entirely due to our physical changes, but mostly due to the mind. The mind works in a very natural, very automatic way, which we cannot understand. Therefore, we need to examine our mind, not our body. The truth is, it is our mind that has always guided us on what to do. We must understand our own psychology. The religious term is called inner self, inner nature, nature. It doesn't matter, no matter what name we call it, let's understand our mind. Let's see. Never think that examining and understanding the natural nature of the mind is the work of Easterners or of a journey to the East. That is a completely wrong concept. This is our job, everyone's job. How can we separate our body or our private images from our mind? Surely it is impossible. We think that we are an independent person, completely free to go wherever we want, do whatever we want, and enjoy whatever we want. Forget that thought, we are not free at all. I don't want to say that we are controlled by anyone. This is because of an uncontrolled mind, an unconscious mind, a mind that clings to our own. It is oppressing us. If we discover how oppressed we are by it, our unconscious mind will immediately disappear. Understanding your own mind makes it easier to solve all problems. One day the world looks great, the next day it sucks. Why do we say that? Scientifically speaking, the world cannot fundamentally change like that. Our own mind is the cause of these images. These are not religious teachings. The change of heart is not due to dogmas. I'm not talking about religion at all, I'm talking about the ways we conduct our daily lives, the events that change us, up and down. Other people, or the surrounding life circumstances, are not the fundamental reasons for change. That is our mind. I hope that you understand what I am saying. Likewise, a person thinks that the world is so beautiful and that people are so wonderful and kind. Meanwhile, others think that people and everything on this earth are so bad. Who is right? How can we explain this problem scientifically and frankly? In fact, these are projections, delusions of each individual's mind, about their own sensory world. We think, today is like this, tomorrow is like that, this guy is like this, that lady is like that. But what is the most absolute? Is that woman beautiful forever? Is that man really good and beautiful forever? All of this does not really exist. It is all a product of the mind. Don't think that all material products can satisfy our desires, or that they will give us a perfect life. This is not possible. How can we be completely satisfied, even though there are so many things around us? How can we sleep when there are thousands of different people who are never satisfying us? Can never be achieved. Absolute satisfaction only comes from our hearts. If we do not understand our own psychology, we will ignore all the events that are happening in it, until at some point they will burst, and we will become crazy. Foolish because of them. People become irritable, angry, simply because they lack understanding within their souls. Lack of investigation, lack of introspection. They can't explain themselves, they don't know how to talk to themselves. Therefore, they only care and worry about external objects. Meanwhile inside, their souls are deteriorating miserably, waiting for the day they will break down. They have abandoned their inner world, so their inner self is completely linked to ignorance and blindness instead of awakening and self-analyzing the problem in calmness and joy. Let's examine our own mental attitudes. Become your own psychologist. If we are intelligent enough, we will know that material objects themselves are not enough to bring us happiness and satisfaction, so we do not need to participate in stimulating seminars. Religious journeys to examine our inner self. But there are some people who think like that. They believe that inner examination is the work of religion, of something seemingly sacred. We really don't need to follow this religion or that philosophy to analyze our inner self and then have to close ourselves into their framework. If we really want peace and happiness, we should honestly examine our current lifestyle, which is guiding our lives. The path is in the mind, the path comes from the heart, our mind is our path. When we examine the mind, we should not push, suppress or rationalize it. Get comfortable, relax. Don't be impatient or restless when things happen. You should only be alert and follow them to see where they come from, where their roots are, and what their basis is. Introduce the problem to yourself. This is the problem. Why does it become a problem? Which mind of mine makes it a problem? Which mind feels this is a problem? Once we examine ourselves like that, the problem will disappear very naturally. Too simple, isn't it? We don't have to believe in anything. Don't believe in anything. All the same, we don't need to say, I don't believe I have a mind. We cannot get rid of our mind. We can declare, I get rid of Eastern events. I agree. But can you get rid of yourself? Can you remove your head and nose? We cannot give up our mind. Therefore, treat yourself wisely and try to discover where the source of satisfaction lies. When we are children, we love candy. We think, when I grow up, I will eat as much candy as I want, I will eat it to my heart's content, then we will feel happy. Now, we can buy as many candies and cookies as we want, but we are bored, our life is still boring. We immediately come to a decision, because we don't do what we have. I'm happy, so I will buy a car, buy a house, buy a TV, find a husband, a wife, then we feel like we love life and are happy. Now we have all of those things. But then the car gives us problems, the house gives us worries, the husband and wife give us troubles, the children give us frustrations. We immediately complain. Exclaimed, not satisfied at all. No fun at all. I don't feel happy. So, what is satisfaction? This is an important job. Review all these psychological processes, consider, review your life from childhood to the present. This is the analytical method of meditation. At that time, as a child, my mind was like this, now my mind is like this, it has changed this way and that way. Our minds have changed countless times, but do we understand what truly brings us happiness? In my understanding, we have completely failed. We know the way in the city we live in. We know the way home, we know where to buy candy, but in fact we still lost everything, we didn't look for it. Find out the purpose, the goal of our life. Think sincerely. Isn't that true, ladies and gentlemen? The Buddha taught that all we need to know is that we are who. How do we exist? We don't have to believe in anything. We just need to understand our mind. How does desire and attachment arise? How does ignorance arise? Where do emotions come from? Just understand the nature of those problems and we will be happy, and happy from then on. Complete change, everything will be wonderfully transformed. What used to look shabby and dark, now looks perfect and happy. If I said, we all lived for candy, you'd think I was crazy. Are not. Our self-aggrandizing mind may say so. But let's sincerely look deeply into our life's purpose. Why do we come here to this intellectual? To become famous. To accumulate more assets. To attract others. I'm not taking on anything. Let's control ourselves, we'll see right away. Through such moments of contemplation, we will discover the truth that we have spent our whole lives looking for happiness through a piece of chocolate or a glass of ice cream, material, and completely ignored it. Forget the fact that we were lucky to be born as humans. The bird and the dog acted exactly the same. Is the purpose of human life higher than that of dogs and chickens? I don't decide your life for you, but we should ponder this issue. It is better for us to have a comprehensive life rather than just running in one direction or being too haphazard. A messy life is not only not beneficial for yourself, but also does not help others, which is not wise at all. What do we really live for? Confectionery? Meat? Perhaps we would say, of course I don't live to eat. I am a knowledgeable, educated person. But knowledge also comes from the mind. Besides the mind, what is knowledge? What is philosophy? Philosophy is the product of certain people's minds, then combined into one ideology. Without the mind, there would be no philosophy, or problems of the universe. All are products of the mind. How do we know the mind? Just watch, observe how it perceives, how it describes an event it is facing. Observe what sensations, comfortable or uncomfortable, are arising, moving. Then follow up, when do I recognize this problem, this feeling comes, that emotion appears. I distinguish them, why? That's how to recognize our mind. It's all so simple. Once we recognize the mind, we will no longer blame others for our problems. We will realize that our mistakes are caused by our sick mind, our wrong mind. Every time we are busy with external things, with materialistic objects, we often blame those events, or someone else, for bringing trouble or failure to us. Attributing mistakes to external phenomena will bring and leave us behind suffering for the soul. When we begin to realize false notions, we begin to step on the path of realizing the true nature of the mind, and will end the suffering in life. Are these comments new to us? No, they are not new at all. Before doing anything, we often research them before making a decision. We've all done it. I'm not suggesting anything new. The only difference is that we were not really determined to do it fully and completely. Think more deeply. This does not mean that we should just sit alone in a corner and focus on our breathing. We can control our mind anywhere, at any time, while talking. Or while working with others, etc. Do you think that examining the mind is only for people on their way to the East? Don't think like that. Awareness of the natural nature of the mind is different from awareness of the flesh and bones of the body. Our mind is like a mirror, it reflects everything in front of it. Without distinction or analysis, it reflects everything as it is. If we have the understanding of wisdom, we can control the reflection that we allow the object to enter into the mirror of our mind. If we completely ignore what happens in the mind, it will reflect all the garbage it encounters, events that make us psychologically sick. Our cognitive intelligence will analyze which reflections are beneficial, and which reflections are harmful to our psychology. In fact, once we realize the true nature of subject and object, all matters become clear. Many people think they follow a religion, but what is religion? If we don't learn our true nature, we won't have wisdom and won't understand who we are, so why do they follow religion? For what? That's just a verbal religion. I'm a Buddhist, a Catholic, a Jew, etc. It won't help, it won't make any sense. It does not help us, nor does it help others. To truly help others, we need wisdom. The most troublesome things about humans, the most important problems of humanity, are psychological, not material. From birth to death, people are constantly under the influence of their own suffering. Many of us never see what it is like in our hearts when things come calmly, in a good way, but when an event comes suddenly that is not good. Unsatisfactory, an accident or a sad event, we immediately cry out, "Dear God, please save me." See, they claim to be religious, which is ridiculous. Whether happy or miserable, people who sincerely practice religion are always calm and awake in God, Buddha, heaven, and in their own nature. We should not be too idealistic or too neglectful of religion, because when we are happily surrounded by candy or pleasure, we will forget ourselves, and only return to God when encounter trouble and suffering. No matter how many religions there are in this world, their descriptions of God, Buddha, etc., are just their lips and come from their mind, speech and mind, only by these two things. Only through these two gateways. Therefore, words are not important. Everything we know about things, about good and bad phenomena, philosophies, doctrines, etc., comes from the mind. The mind is truly important. Therefore, it needs guidance. A good jet needs to have a good pilot. The pilot of our mind needs wisdom to understand its nature. In that direction, we can guide our mental energy to bring peace to life, instead of letting it run around like a crazy elephant, causing harm to ourselves and others. I don't need to say any more. I think you understand what I mean. Now that we can talk to each other, it will be more beneficial. Please ask questions, I will try to answer. Remember, you don't have to agree with what I say. You need to understand my attitude and my mind. If you are not satisfied with what I have presented, please attack it. I like people who argue with me. I am absolutely not dictatorial, you have to be like this, she has to be like that. I don't have the right to tell anyone what to do. I just want to suggest and let you think for yourself. If that's the case, then I'm satisfied. Now please tell me what you're not satisfied with what I just stated. Question: how do you recognize your mind? How do you control it? The Lama replied, the simple way to know and control our mind is to examine how we perceive things, how we interpret experiences. Why do you have so many different feelings about your boyfriend, even in just one day? In the morning you love him, in the afternoon you feel angry, why? Has he changed? No, he's still the same. So why do you have different feelings about him? That is the way we control the mind. Question: if we don't believe that our mind can decide something, should we let an outside factor get involved? As we say to ourselves, if this or that happens, I will go here, if something else happens, I will go there, Lama replied, before we do any work. We should ask ourselves why we do this, what is the purpose, what is the reason we participate in this work? If the road ahead looks like there will be problems, of course we won't go that road anymore. If we feel it's safe, we'll go. First, let's comment. You should not do any work without knowing and understanding what will happen to you. Question: who is the Lama? Lama replied, very good question. From the Tibetan point of view, a Lama is a person with a very high level of education about the inner world. They not only understand the present mind, but also thoroughly understand the past and future minds. Psychologically speaking, a Lama can know where they came from and where they are going, and they have the power to control themselves, and the ability to advise others on the spiritual path. Tibetans call such people Lamas. Question: what positions in the West can be compared to Lamas? The Lama replied, I don't know if there is any comparable position in the West. We can understand this as a combination of work between a priest, a psychologist and a doctor. But as I just mentioned, Lamas are people who have realized their own minds and those of others, so they can help others solve spiritual problems. I am not criticizing anyone at all, but I am skeptical of the spiritual experiences, the experiences of the emotional world, like some others, of Western psychologists. Sometimes they advise on things that are worthless, poorly understood, and give too shallow explanations for problems that a person has gone through, like, when we were children, our mother did that, our father did that. I don't agree, that's not true. We can't blame our parents for our current problems. Of course, the living environment creates difficulties, but the main cause is always our mind. The essence of all problems never comes from the outside, always from our own hearts. I don't know, but perhaps Western doctors are afraid to tell the truth, to present the problem as it is. I have also met many priests, pastors, some of whom are my friends, who tend not to want to face too much directly the current problems happening on the ground. Instead of paying attention to the ever-changing practical issues and uncertain issues in daily life, they only focus on overly religious issues such as God, faith, etc. People today like what is practical and scientific, so they reject what priests and Taoists teach. Question: how does meditation help us in making decisions? The Lama replied, meditation brings good results, because it is a method that not only requires us to believe in something, but also that we sincerely practice it ourselves in daily life. Control yourself, monitor your own mind. If someone scolds us, curses us, or touches our pride, instead of resisting, we should calmly control and monitor what is rising, and happening. Is in our hearts. Watch how the sounds from the other person's mouth reach our ears, then make our heart ache. If we actually follow this correctly, this event will make us laugh. We will feel foolish to get angry over such a trivial matter. Then the problem will disappear in an instant, as fast as a snap of the fingers. Practicing in this way, we will discover the problem by our own experiences. We will understand how meditation helps. It really brings satisfaction in all such problems. Meditation is not just words, it is wisdom. Question: Dear Lama, please tell me about karma. Lama replied, yes, we are the accumulation of karma. This is really simple. In fact, the word karma comes from India. Briefly explained, this is the law of cause and effect. What does this law mean? Something happened in our mind yesterday, so that today we experience the consequences. Or, in our life situation, our parents are like that, we have such a life, then we will receive such results. In our daily lives, in every moment. In every job, in every action, there are endless chains of causes and effects, of action and reaction, that is karma. As long as we are still in this body, still dealing with the sensory world, distinguishing between good and bad, our mind will still create karma, cause and effect. Karma is not just philosophical theories, it is science, Buddhist science. Karma explains how life develops and evolves, how to distinguish appearance and feeling, color and excitement, etc., our whole life, who we are, where we come from, where we are going, is related to our mind. Karma is the science of Buddhism to explain evolution and transformation. Thus, although karma is a word that comes from India, in fact we are karma, we are the accumulation of karma, our entire life is controlled by karma, we live in the energy field of karma. Our energy, our life force, intersects with other sources of energy, and more, infinitely. That's how the whole life is. Our life is revealed, expressed, manifested. From physical to mental, everything is karma. Therefore, karma is not something we have to believe in. Because whether we believe or not that there is karma, the natural characteristic of both our body and mind is to keep wandering around in the natural existence of the 6 realms of samsara. In the physical universe, once everything comes together such as earth, water, fire and wind, there is a natural interference and influence on each other. No need to believe, naturalness is always so natural. Our internal world is the same. Every time we come into contact with the outside world, we naturally react. For example, last year we ate a bar of chocolate and felt very delicious, then since then we don't have it anymore, now we crave it. God, I want a piece of chocolate so much. We remember the experience. The experience of enjoying a piece of chocolate before, it is this remembering that makes us crave and want more. It is the reaction to the past experience that is the cause. The craving is the effect. Simple and easy to understand, right? Question: What is your purpose in life? Lama replied, you wonder about the purpose of my life, right? This is an issue that I need to figure out for myself, but if you force me to answer, I will say it like this: my whole life is to bring as much benefit as possible to others, while also bringing benefits to yourself. I cannot say I have succeeded in this matter, but that is the purpose of my life. Question: Is the mind different from the soul? When you say solve the problem of the mind, are you referring to the mind that has the problem, not the soul? Lama replied, philosophically, the soul can be described in many aspects. In Christianity or Hinduism, the soul is different from the mind, and is considered eternal and immortal and has self-nature. In my opinion, that is not the case. According to Buddhism, the soul, mind, or whatever we call it, is always changing and impermanent. I don't really differentiate between soul and mind, but within each of us, we cannot find anything that is eternal and self-existing. When faced with mental problems, don't think that the mind is always completely bad and uncontrolled. unawakened mind is the cause of all problems. If we develop wisdom, and thereby recognize the nature of an uncontrolled mind, it will naturally disappear. But until we recognize it, we are still influenced by it. Question: I have heard that many Westerners have learned the profound and magical philosophies of Tibetan Buddhism, but it is difficult for them to put them into practice in life. The theory is too good but not practical. Sir, what is it that prevents the practice? Lama replied, thank you, such a good question. Tibetan Buddhism teaches us how to overcome our dissatisfied mind, but to do this we need determination, we need a will. To incorporate our method into your own experience, you should go slowly, step by step. You can't jump right to the last level. It takes time, and we predict that you will encounter failure first. Go slowly and comfortably, and the practice will get easier over time. Question: Sir, what is the true nature of the mind, and how can we recognize it? Lama replied, our mind has two aspects, two states, relative and absolute. The mind perceives and reacts or acts according to the sensory world, which is relative. We also call it the dualistic mind, which is why I often describe it as this, that, cognition. Its nature is dynamic. However, through the transformation of the dualistic mind principle, that we can unify our views. At that point we realize the absolute true nature of our mind, which is on the other side of the dualistic mind contact with our normal sensory world. Every day in mundane life, so two opposing problems, dualistic minds always occur. The appearance of two events always creates problems. Like children, just one child is okay, two children together are naturally chaotic. Likewise, our five senses contact, receive, interpret the world around them and provide dualistic information to our mind. Our mind grasps those perceptions, so naturally, conflicts and disturbances occur. This event is completely contrary to silence and natural peace of the inner world. Therefore, when we experience this peaceful realm, we will experience absolute peace. This is just a brief explanation of what you asked. You may not be completely satisfied, because this is a large topic that is difficult to understand. What I have just explained is just an introduction to an extremely profound field. However, if you have a little understanding of this matter, my answer may satisfy you. Question: when you investigate and control your mind, does it always tell you the truth? The Lama replied, no, it doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes our mistaken mind answers. We should not listen to them. Instead, say to yourself, I am not satisfied with what my mind says, I want a better answer. Let us always continue to learn deeper until our intelligence answers, our intelligence speaks. Better yet, ask, always ask, because if you don't ask, you won't get an answer. But we should not ask too emotionally, too impatiently. Oh, something. I have to know, I have to find out, I have to. If we have a question, we should write it down slowly, we should think it through thoroughly. At some point the right answer will appear. It takes time. If we don't have the answer today, keep the question. Once the question becomes intense, the answer will come, sometimes in a dream. Why do we get answers? Because our nature is intellectual. Don't think that we are completely ignorant. Human nature has both positive and negative extremes, good and bad, wisdom and ignorance. Question: how do you define a teacher? The Lama replied, I am someone who can truly show us our natural mind, and someone who has complete insight into our spiritual problems. A person who does not understand his own mind cannot know the minds of others, and therefore cannot be a teacher. They are incapable of solving other people's problems. We should be extremely careful when choosing a spiritual teacher. There are many false teachers around us. Sometimes Westerners are too trusting, too reverent, so a person comes and says, I'm a Lama, I'm a practitioner, I can give you understanding, and then the young Westerner thinks, maybe this teacher can show me, I'll follow him. But then this event will bring him a lot of distractions. I have heard that many people are deceived by charlatans. Westerners tend to trust more easily than Easterners, and Easterners are more cautious about this issue. Be careful, don't be too hasty. Question: does humility always go hand in hand with wisdom? Lama replied, yes. The more modest the better. If we always behave with a humble, gentle and understanding heart, how wonderful our life will be. We will always respect everyone. Question, is there an exception in this matter, sir? Because I read on a poster of a spiritual leader, everyone must kneel at my feet. Is that a wise situation? The Lama replied, oh, this is difficult to say. In this case we must be very careful. Our mind is very strange. Sometimes we disregard valuable events, sometimes we accept events that should be avoided. Let's avoid extreme cases, we should follow the middle path. Let's control all events with wisdom. This is really important. Question, why is there a difference between Westerners and Easterners as you just mentioned? Lama replied, there is no such thing as a completely different matter. Maybe it's a bit complicated for Westerners to understand, but basically we are all human beings, almost all of us want to enjoy happiness and pleasure. Maybe because each person's different level of knowledge leads to differences in personality. The teacher-student relationship of Asians is different from that of Westerners, perhaps because they have more experience in this matter. Question, is it more difficult to succeed in developing wisdom in the West than in the East? Because in the West we have too many obstacles, our minds are too preoccupied with the past, the future, and the past. Like we are being oppressed and oppressed too much. Should we completely abandon ourselves? Or do we have to do something? The Lama replied, I am not saying that success in intellectual development is more difficult in the West than in the East. In fact, the issue of intellectual development, the issue of understanding nature, is a completely personal matter for each person. We cannot say that it will be easier in the East than in the West. Just as we cannot insist that if we want to develop wisdom, we must break away from Western material life. You don't have to give up anything. Instead of thinking about giving up, try to develop attitudes like, I need this, but I don't need everything. The real obstacles come to us when greed and attachment begin to dominate our minds, and when we place all our trust in other people and in material possessions. They are not obstacles in themselves, obstacles lie right in our minds. They tell us, I cannot do without this, my life cannot do without it. We can have a luxurious life, full of amenities, but don't depend on, don't cling to those possessions. Happiness and enjoyment of comfort will truly be greater and more comfortable if we can enjoy them without being attached to them, without worrying about them. Our life will be perfect. In the West, you have the opportunity to have these comforts, but in the East we really have to fight to get the minimum comforts. To conclude, clinging to possessions brings more trouble and suffering. A let-go mind, a free mind, while possessing possessions. I hope that I have fully answered you. Thank you very much.
Thank you for spending your valuable time on my channel Journey to Enlightenment. Wishing you a very peaceful and happy day. Don't forget to click like and subscribe to my support channel. See you in the next video.